Our speaker today is Bea Gallagher, CNS PhD. She's going to talk to us about the gut and head connection. At this time, I'd like to say what's really so wonderful about the Open Circle Forum is the range of topics we consider. There's nothing really that's taboo except promoting your own business. Plus, those who speak to us here are almost all people who live here. They're our friends and neighbors, and you get acquainted with what a rich community we have. It's quite extraordinary. So, Beatrice says we think the brain controls all the body's reactions and moods, but there's new evidence that the gut contains nerve cells that act like a brain, controlling our mood, immune system, transit times, detox, and allergies. Memory and mental well-being are influenced by gut-head function. And this morning you're going to learn how the two areas are connected. Bea has a BS degree from the University of Connecticut, an MS in Human Nutrition from the University of New Haven, a diplomat in Chinese medicine, and a PhD in integrative medicine from Capital University of Integrative Medicine in Washington, D.C. She has an active practice in San Antonio, Chapala. Let us welcome Bea. Doctora Bea. Doctora Bea. Good morning, everybody. How's your gut today? I am going to present something that I have not heard since I moved here. Today, I'd like to talk to you about poop. Your poop. So, this is something new for me. I started about 2 years ago. I was sitting at the Eve's restaurant, and then somebody wearing a pink shirt came over and she said, "Do you speak English?" I said, "Well, yeah. We need a translator. Dr. Stong is going to go to Guadalajara, and we need help." So I said, "When is this thing?" "Tomorrow." "What? I have people to see tomorrow." She said, "Well, cancel them." Karuna doesn't go with, things. Cancel them. I said, "Well, let me see if I can do that." So I called them up and I rescheduled them, and they said, "Okay, I'm free. Let's go." So of course I'm sitting in the car with Dr. Stone and Karuna. And then we start talking about environmental medicine. And I realized how little I knew about environmental medicine. So I said, well, one more thing to study. So I went to the U.S. to visit my husband. And I met a friend who has a friend who has a colonic business. And she told her about me, and she said, "Next time you come to the U.S., I'd like you to meet my friend." And I said, "Okay, well, let's have dinner together." So we went and had dinner. And, among many topics, I told her that I do acupuncture without needles. And she hires an acupuncturist in her practice. So she thought if she learns my stuff, she would not need her acupuncturist. So we made a deal. I said, "Okay, you teach me your colonic thing, and I teach you acupuncture." She said, "Deal." I said, "But poop? Geez." Did you know? A lot of people have the wrong impression about what a colonic is. And to have the right opinion, you need to have one. I said, "No, not me. I'm regular. Don't need that stuff." I said, "You never know." I said, "Yeah, you're right. You never know." So we made an appointment. I went to her place. And after she did that thing, she said, "You have 18 weeks of backup." I said, "What?" Well, I don't know how she figured out the 18 weeks. But I felt great. I said, wow, I feel so good, and I'm not even constipated. I wonder how constipated people might be feeling. So I said, I think I need to learn this. And she said, well, if you want to do this to other people, I think you need to be certified and go to school. And there is a school in Florida where they can train you in 2 weeks, and you take an exam and you have your certificate and you can practice. And she gave me the name of the school, and I called and they said, we have a class in 2 weeks. I said, 2 weeks? I just came back from the States. And I said, well, when do you have another one? I said, well, we don't know. We run these classes until we have enough students. So now we have enough students, we're going to run one in 2 weeks. And it costs this much. I said, wow, that's pretty pricey. Do I wait for the next class, or I go now? So I did like what the commercial does. I opened my wallet and I saw Capital One. So there I go. And I learned how to do colonics. Of course, in school, we don't have no one to practice with. We practice with each other. Forget dignity. You're there at a table with your butt in the air, and everybody's watching. Ooh. So anyway, I learned that stuff. And then one of the labs I worked with in the States started to introduce environmental testing for impossible cases who nobody can figure it out. And some of these people might be toxic with pesticides, herbicides, all kinds of chemicals. So now there are blood tests for that. One of the doctors who presented the most cases, he said that his best tool to help people was colonics. And in his opinion, there was no such thing as an autoimmune disease, that it was all toxic. The toxins go to cell membranes and the immune system attacks the membrane trying to pull out that toxin. I say, okay, I'm going to take poop out. So when I travel, I sit next to a person and they ask me, where you come from? Well, I come from Mexico. And what do you do for a living? I take poop out of people. And they pay me. Okay, so let's see how our colon looks. I'm going to hold this picture, and I hope you can see it. But this is the picture of a healthy colon. If everybody is healthy, you have a colon that looks like this. Of course, you only see this in the anatomical books. Most people have something like this. It looks like roadkill. So, because we have this 5 feet long, and it can accumulate little poop, this guy who made this map, he used to require to have an x-ray before he did a colonic. And he started to notice the deformities of the colon, and he said that the colon has all the acupuncture points. So where the deformity was, that was the organ that was also sick. So let's review how the digestive system works. So I have a map here, a poster, of our digestive tract. Of course, we're going to talk about the head too. So that would be up here. In there, you have your mouth, where food comes in. You chew it, hopefully thoroughly. The food comes down here. There's a valve here, and that's where food has to cross this valve. This is people with reflux have problems here. Then food goes into the stomach, and the stomach produces gastric juices and enzymes to start digestion. When this food now is liquid, then it starts to drip into the small intestine, little by little, And the food has to be changed from acid here to alkaline. So the juices of the bile and the pancreas here get together and change the pH of food from acid to alkaline. The food travels through the small intestine, and then there's another valve here called the ileocecal valve, and this is a one-way valve. It's only up to down. And then the food goes from liquid to become a paste, and then it goes down here, and then you sit down on the foot, and out it goes. So this is a normal track, and this is what happens to our food when we eat it. There's some terms called like transit time. It's how long it takes from the food that you eat from this beginning to this end here. It's funny how people say, I have no problem with that. I go every day. I said, really? Okay. I give them a bunch of charcoal tablets. Say, take this, and then take a look when they start to come out, and then see when you don't see them anymore. See how many days it goes. So you might see them. The ideal transit time is 12 hours. The time it goes in, so the time it goes out. But if you see it in, say, 12 hours, but then you keep seeing it for a week, that's not right. So the colon is our most neglected organ, I believe. And this is the organ, there was a guy, Bernard Jensen, who said that death begins in the colon. In the colon we have more bacteria than any other place in the body. There's a Dr. Gerson who decided that he was going to dedicate his life to learn and prove that we have a second brain. We have this brain here. It's good for philosophy, art, learning, and all that. But this brain that is here is your emotional brain. So Dr. Gerson has taken more than 30 years in learning how this second brain develops and how it works. So he said that everything from butterflies in your gut, cramps, diarrhea, constipation, can be triggered by what happens in your gut. Chaos in the gut can lead to dysfunctional diseases such as gastritis, nervous stomachs, IBS. This nervous system is called the enteric nervous system, and is formed by cells that migrate from the neural crest. This is the first brain that existed, and before we have evolution, we had very simple lives and bacteria, and then like reptiles. So the basic brain that is called the reptile brain, or the limbic system now, is a brain dedicated for survival, to find food, and have sex. So the species will continue. So as the evolution continued, there was a need for a second brain. In case you lose your head, the rest can continue working. So the good functioning of your bowel depends a lot on the local pH. So the pH begins in your stomach where it has to be acid. Then it has to be changed to alkaline in your intestines. When you're too alkaline, then you have problems, the same way as if you're too acid. Most of us go towards the acid side. In the gut, we produce neurotransmitters. The most important, or the most dysfunctional in people, is serotonin. So serotonin is made in the gut. So serotonin may be the core of diseases like schizophrenia, depression, bipolar, all mental disorders, autism, and there are some symptoms that some of us may have, like craving for sweets. You love cookies. You love spaghetti. That's because the carbohydrates make your brain believe that you have more serotonin. When you have way too much serotonin, then you have diarrhea. So the extremes are never good. The intestine contains 7 different types of receptors for serotonin, and they communicate with each other and also send messages to the brain. Serotonin acts as a go-between, keeping the brain in your head with the other brain communicating. So such communication, that means from here to here, is 90%. Nausea and vomiting are signaled by serotonin. Another neurotransmitter that is very important now for the brain is acetylcholine. But acetylcholine and norepinephrine are also in the gut. In the brain, 50% of the dopamine is produced. This is a neurotransmitter that gives you that taste for life. I have plans. I want to do this. I want to do that. When you have low dopamine, you're a couch potato. This is your motivation. Change the channel. But dopamine is also made in the gut. Parkinson's disease, which is a condition where you have a deficiency of dopamine, people have also gut problems. I know this for a fact because my mom has Parkinson's disease. However, being my mom, she has to submit to my orders, and she has taken everything I have given her. Vitamins, minerals, homeopathic remedies, Chinese medicine, whatever I was learning. When I came to Mexico, had suitcases of whatever I was learning. And take this thing or else. So just for Christmas, she came to visit me, and I said, Mom, you take too much medicine. You need some colonics. I do? Yep. Every day. And I'm not going to charge you. So she came. And then, I always wondered, did I take all the poop out? Because the water comes out clean now. So I said, Mom, we're going to go for an x-ray. Your mom cannot sue you, so you cannot say. So we went and got an x-ray, and guess what? There was still a lot of poop in there. So there's nothing more uncomfortable than having your gut full of poop. If you have had babies, you know how babies are when they're constipated. They cry and cry and cry. So the organs age as we age. However, we don't age equally. The first thing that starts to age, unfortunately, is the brain. By age 20, we are starting to lose neurons. We start with about 100 billion with a B, and then by age 40, we could be losing up to 10,000 per day, affecting memory, coordination, and brain function. But the gut, that's more resilient, and starts aging around age 55. That's better, right? So most people who have gut problems start around middle age. The other organ that ages fast is the lungs. So by age 20, we have the best capacity, and it goes down depending on your insults. For example, if you smoke, but the rib cage starts to contract, and we are not able to pull as much air. So we want to keep our gut and brain functioning for as long as possible. One thing that a lot of us, and I had a lot too, was teeth problems. I'm the second oldest of 14 kids. Sunday was allowance day, and guess what we did? we ran to the store to buy candy. So by the time I was like 10, I had a bunch of cavities. So what do? You go to the dentist, you get your amalgams. But now we know that amalgams are bad news. It's been known for a long time. In the 1920s, there was a Dr. Weston Price, and he visited many primitive cultures and took pictures of people's teeth. And he saw that the jaw starts to change, and then the teeth don't fit, and then you have overlapping teeth. When people move to the city and start to eat Western diet. He also started to question the wisdom of having root canals. So to prove the point, he started to take root canal teeth and put them under the skin of rabbits and see what happened. And he saw that the rabbit would develop the same condition that the patient had. So if you have arthritis, the rabbit would have arthritis, you have infection, or kidney problem, liver problem, or whatever. So since we have an industrial revolution, we have increased a lot the consumption of sugar. In 1920s, the consumption was 6 to 10 pounds per person per year. Now in the States, I believe it's about 160 pounds per year. I buy a bag of 5 pounds a year. Who's taking my share? So dental health is not just only sugar. It's also vitamins, minerals, diet, pH, and saliva. So the amalgams became the way to repair cavities, and in fact, it's still in practice. But now some people, especially dentists, have been saying that amalgams are no good because amalgams are 50% mercury. They are called silver fillings. So in fact, some dentists who started to say that amalgams are bad were being persecuted. Just like doctors who do chelation or do anything that cures people. I have a friend in the States who said, killing people is illegal. Let's keep them sick, but they don't die because then they are not pain anymore. So mercury has no human use, no use in the body, and it's like real estate. Location, location, location. So it's not so important how much mercury you have in your body, but where it's located. So high concentrations of mercury can be very bad if they are in your liver or in your kidneys. Another bad place to have mercury is in your cell membrane. The nerves are mostly fat, and they're curious, so the membrane kind of comes out and grabs this molecule, brings it in to inspect what is that thing. But mercury has the ability to destroy the tubules inside of the neurons, and then it cannot come out. So you're stuck with it. We have been using a lot of omega-3 because we were told it's good for us. But a lot of the mercury is also in like tuna fish. Fish that are big and have been around for a long time, so they have accumulated more mercury in their flesh. There is a test, there are several tests, but the one I use the most is the hair test to see how much mercury is in the body. There is no perfect test to tell us how much mercury because different tissues tells us different story. Your hair tells you what's there in the last maybe 6 months. The urine, what was there in your meal, or what you swallowed. Poop can tell us what your liver was able to release, and it comes out in the bile. There is also a challenge test where you could get some tablets of like DMPS or DMSA, and then that is like shaking the tree and the apples fall. So you force the body to release mercury, and then you collect the urine. and it can be measured that way. But root canals can also be a cause of hidden infections. And because we don't have the nerve anymore, we don't know that the teeth are infected. As a matter of fact, last year I lost 2 molars. So one morning I woke up with a chip this big. I said, ooh, doesn't it hurt? So I went to the dentist and he said, oh, you have an infection. Here's a week of antibiotics. I said, ooh. So I injected myself every day. And then it went away. 6 months later, again. I said, ooh, that's not good. And then I said, well, give me another round of antibiotics. But then it came back. I said, okay, that's enough. So I have a friend in the States who's a biological dentist. And he has all kinds of fancy machines and equipment. So I went to get a second opinion. So he didn't waste any time. He just took out his machine, put like a probe on each tooth. He said, they're dead and out. Can I have a root canal? No. Can I fix it anyway? No. Can I do also? No. Out, out, out. Okay. So, they went out. So why some people are very sensitive and others are not? Because people have many amalgams and they're still functioning. They seem to be pretty happy and normal. It all depends on your immune system. If you have an effective, very efficient immune system, the immune system keeps those infections controlled. But when you have a trauma or something bigger, then your immune system breaks down and then all hell breaks loose. Dr. Price also did a lot of studies with blood tests. And he said that the occurrence of periodontal gum disease or infections are directly related to calcium metabolism. Calcium has to be 2.5 times higher than phosphorus. Most of the blood tests that I see don't give me phosphorus, so I cannot do the math to tell people if they're right or not. So I have to request it. Would you please include phosphorus in this blood test? And they say, what for? Well, because I want to. So people are now taking attention and trying to remove those amalgams, but it has to be done the right way. You need to do a preparation. The day of the removal has to be done correctly. Everybody has to be protected, the nurse or the assistant, the doctor and the patient. Because when they're drilling that amalgam out, that mercury becomes a vapor and it's all over. And you need to prepare to do the best way you can. So that means filters. We use a lot of chlorella. Chlorella is a microscopic algae that has a special proteins called metalloproteins that grab mercury and they don't let go. So in fact, it is a chelating agent. Now we're going to go to colon. And since we reviewed the digestive process, what I see in my office mostly are 3 groups of people. People that have digestive problems, people that have pain, and people who can't have sex. So all these things are related to nutrition. The most important thing in digestion, at least in the beginning, is the production of hydrochloric acid. The cells that produce hydrochloric acid are called parietal cells, and they also produce what we know as intrinsic factor. So there's a little test that I tell people to do. Take a little bit of apple cider vinegar in water before your meal. If you feel bad within the first 10 minutes, you pass a test. If you feel nothing, you flunk. Another version, if you don't like the vinegar, you take a glass of water, you put some baking soda, and you drink it. If you don't burp, within the next 5 minutes, you flunk the test. So why is hydrochloric acid important? Well, it has 5 main jobs. First is to break down proteins. It kills parasites, uncouples minerals so you can absorb them, stimulates the flow of bile, and is an indicator of energy because it's very expensive for the body to produce hydrochloric acid. People who don't produce hydrochloric acid have some of these symptoms: bloating, belching, flatulence, especially after meals, so your belly goes up here. Sense of fullness right after eating, indigestion, diarrhea or constipation, systemic reactions like feeling sleepy after you eat, nausea after taking several supplements, especially those that contain iron, constipation when consuming calcium carbonate supplements, weak, peeling or cracking fingernails, adult acne, gallbladder congestion, difficulty in digesting fats, iron deficiency or B12 anemia, chronic intestinal infections. The fact is that here in Mexico we have some narco bugs, parasites, that are very hard to kill. So the first line of defense would be first chewing your food, and then that you have enough acid, and the acid will kill the parasites. But if you don't have enough, they go through customs and immigration, and they go to your colon, and they're happy there, because they have lots of food. Smelly stools due to putrefaction of proteins. As a matter of fact, in my office I asked them, "Sir, how's your poop?" "Fine." "And how is it?" "What do you mean, how is it?" "Well, do you have canoes or submarines? Do you have applesauce or little pebbles? What color is it? Is it brown? Mustard color?" Some people say, "I never look." Well, now you look. In fact, if you were a noble in the Chinese time of the dynasties, you would have your personal doctor who would go and check your potty every morning. You have to kind of move it, smell it, and then after that diagnosis, he would go to the cook and give instructions to the cook about what would be the menu for the day. Isn't that nice? Wish I had a cook. So when we start with bad news, like we don't have enough teeth to chew our food well, we don't produce enough hydrochloric acid, then we go downhill, and then we have something called intestinal permeability. Intestinal permeability is when you have something called leaky gut. And that can be caused by allergies, celiac disease. Now we have a big movement about no wheat, about deficiency of nutrients. We have infections. But the thing that I found that has the most damaging effect, besides not enough fiber and too much stress, is parasites. Parasites should be maintained just in your intestine. That's where they belong. They should not go anywhere else. However, some parasites are very smart or very aggressive, and they can penetrate the intestine, get in the blood or the lymph system, and then go and invade some other organs. For example, Giardia is a single-cell parasite that can cause chronic diarrhea, the stool becomes watery and smelly, you have pain and gas and blah, blah, blah. But it can go to your brain. Now you're in big trouble. Intestinal flukes or blood flukes are, according to some people, one of the main causes for Alzheimer's, Crohn's disease, endometriosis, Kaposi sarcoma, and the flukes can go in the brain as well. Toxoplasma gondii, this is the thing that we have from birds or other animals, and the cats become the final step for this parasite, and then when we clean cat litters or something, where the cat poops, then we can get the cysts and we get infected. So parasites are unavoidable. They were here before we are, and they're going to be here after we're gone. So we can do some things to prevent them. First of all, wash your food, wash your hands, and then we can use things like pumpkin seeds. We have an herb in Mexico called epazote. Put it in your food. Put cloves. Aromatic herbs are not very friendly with parasites. They don't like the smell. So we have to see the medicines that we're taking. A lot of medicines cause constipation or digestive problems. The last point is, what does the brain like to eat? We talked about the gut. Now we're going to talk about the brain. The most important food for your brain is fat. When I was in school in the 80s, we were told fat is bad and fat makes you fat. Well, no, the brain is 60% fat, so eat fat, but the good fat. Butter, coconut oil, avocados, olive oil, nuts and seeds, and of course the good oils, omega-3 and omega-6. All the B vitamins are essential for brain and gut. For example, B1 is very important to make acetylcholine, and that is the most important, or one of the most important things for your memory. So buy it, use it, and remember to take it. Vitamin B2 is essential to process tryptophan, that is to make serotonin. Vitamin B3 is used in high doses to lower cholesterol, but it's to process also fats, carbohydrates, and minerals. We have people with schizophrenia that can respond very nicely to niacin, that's B3. B5 is for energy, B6 is for your hormones, B12 for blood and for energy. Remember that the same cells that make hydrochloric acid you also make intrinsic factors. Without intrinsic factor, you cannot absorb your B12. Folic acid. Now it's going to be the big thing, and that's what I'm studying now at Bastia University. I'm going for seminars about methylation problems. These are people who have genetic problems in processing folic acid. Folic has to do with just about everything, just like magnesium. Choline is a very important nutrient present in lecithin, in eggs. Don't eat just the white of the egg, eat the whole thing. Nature didn't make a mistake putting the yolk in there. Eat it. Eggs every day or frequently. With germ, brewer's yeast, we need all that for memory. Green leafy vegetables, soybeans, all types of beans. Eat liver and clean fish and cauliflower. By the way, people who get very gassy with cauliflowers and broccoli and all that, I tell them they are deficient in molybdenum. If you can't pronounce it, you're deficient. We have ginkgo biloba, we have GABA, so there is a lot of stuff that we can use if we remember. Finally, I'd like to conclude by wrapping what the connection of the gut and the brain. So the two are brains full of neurons. They eat the same thing. The colon is more susceptible for toxicity from pesticides, herbicides, because they're in direct contact with that stuff. The brain has no replacement. We can take the colon out and we leave, but we cannot take the brain out, really. Parasites are here to stay, so make sure that you have your pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin seeds are very sharp, so as they travel through the intestine, it's like a little knife and kills the worms. Let's see if I can get something here. The colon is a very noble organ. Every 7 days we have a new layer of cells. If you do something to help yourself, you will be getting better and better as time goes. Things like glutamine, fiber, those vitamins that I mentioned, minerals. And the most important is laugh. When you don't laugh, you're all tight. And you go for a colonic and nothing comes out. They get very frustrated, and me too. I never thought I was going to be so thrilled to see poop. But when that tube is full, they say, oh, it's working. And they live happy and they feel much better. So your colon is as important as your brain. Your small intestine is also as important as your brain. And finally, I remember a joke about the organs competing to saying which organ was the most important. So the brain said, of course, I am the most important. I rule all the functions in the body, and I am the most important. I'm boss. But then the heart said, no, you got that wrong. I circulate the blood, and I feed all the cells. And then the stomach said, no, you got it wrong. I process all the food so you guys have energy. And then small intestine then jumps in and says, no, I absorb all the food. You only prepare it. And then the liver said, no, I am the chemist. I fix everything. I make things, I undo things, and I save things. Then came the kidneys, I make the pee. Finally, the colon and the anus say, guys, you know, you might be boss, but I'm going to close the door, and then you will see who is boss. Many of you have some questions, so yes, raise your hand and someone will bring you the mic and hold it so you can hear your own voice.
Thank you very much for entertaining presentation. The current theories that are emerging as you watch the news is that supplements are either no good for you or harmful to you, that type of thing. So how do you square that current kind of theoretical hypothesis with what you're saying now about the supplements?
When I was in school, I was in a dietetic program where we were told that if you eat 3 well-balanced meals, you will have all the nutrients you need. Then I took my textbook and found the best sources of all the vitamins, vitamin A, B, C, all of them. And figured out how much you had to eat of each one to match the RDA. I came up to 10,000 calories. And nobody can eat that. Yes, the supplements are here to stay and we need them. But supplements also have qualities. How are they prepared? Are they used with a lot of heat? Do they have a lot of binder? Folic acid will be changing that picture. So 30% of the population have problems handling folic acid. So now we're going to go into activated vitamins like folinic acid, methylcobalamin, and activated vitamins. So it's like a car. Very clunky, or car will take you where you want to go. Or you can go in a Corvette, much more comfortable and faster. Yes, the ideal and the philosophy that we should get everything we need from food, it is true. But it's very hard to do it just with food alone. There are tests to tell you if you have enough vitamins or minerals. There are lots of tests. Just give me lots of money.
Just give me lots of money.
Hi, I had read many years ago that Mae West, the actress from the 20s and 30s, had attributed her beautiful skin, her famous figure, and her very strong sex drive to daily enemas. And I scoffed at that until your presentation.
ahead.
Yes. Yes, I'd like to know if your presentation is available in print form. I wasn't interested very much 13 years ago about the colon, but I ended up with colorectal cancer. Operated on and got the chemo and the radiation, and I'm still clear.
Good.
Thank Lord. I won the lottery there. But some of your vitamins, I take vitamins, and I'm very interested in those vitamins that you were mentioning. So is it available in print form?
Not yet, but I will put it in print form, and then if you send me your email or share your email, I'll send it to you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. The FDA classifies the colonic irrigation systems as class 3 devices, which should only be sold to licensed health practitioners. And they also claim that there is no justification for colonics outside of preparation for medical tests. The literature is full of the dangers of colonics, from rectal perforation, colonic perforation, heart failure due to introducing a large volume of water into the colon, which it was never designed to do. It's a completely unnatural process.
Oh. Well, the colonics have been performed since the Egyptian time.
There are also many tests from contamination between. There was in the Journal of American Medical Association, there were 36 cases of contamination of amoebas because they don't autoclave the system, and there were 9 deaths.
Well,
so it's not as benign.
I agree with some of the things that you have said, that you need to know what you're doing. In our office, everything is sterilized, so nothing is dirty. We have clean water, we have autoclaved everything, so yes, that can happen. However, the Egyptians did colonics already. If you watch the birds, they have a long neck, they do their own colonics. You know, we don't have a long neck to do that kind of thing. But introducing the water, the colon has the capacity to about 2 quarts of water. So only up to 2 quarts of water can go at a time. When the colon expands, there's a reflex to contract and push it up. Plus, we're always in constant communication with the patient. How do you feel? Tell me when you're full, and all that. So it has to be done in communication. And as far as the benefit, well, when I went to school, they gave us a list of books to read. I bought them all, and most of the people who wrote those books were people who got well thanks to the colonics. Now, it's not a thing for everybody, you know, you have to be really, but there's benefit for everybody if you choose to do it.
2 questions. First of all, can you recommend any books that would be good for the layman to read, who tell us more about digestive health and what to do? And secondly, what do you think about the idea of consuming aloe vera juice?
Well, aloe vera juice is very good and it's a laxative, but with all these things, I think most important thing is the amount that we're talking about. If you're going to consume gallons and gallons of aloe vera, it's just like overdosing. You can overdose on anything, even on the good stuff. The amount is crucial there, and also the quality of the product.
Hello, thank you very much for your informational talk. It's been great. You touched on leaky gut syndrome. Is there anything you can suggest to heal leaky gut, and how long you should be on the program to heal it?
Leaky gut is related to a bunch of things: food allergies, parasites, irritants, medications, and also nutrient deficiency. The first thing we would do is to get rid of the bad bugs or parasites. Things like glutamine, butyric acid, clays that absorb toxins, and meditation, because a lot to do with stress. So it takes anywhere from 6 months to a year to fix leaky gut.
Thank you for bringing us up to date on the latest book. It's very uncomfortable for some of us to discuss our personal problems. I went into the armed forces in World War II and I wrote home how well I felt. I was in a southern camp because I wasn't moving my bowels for days and days and days. I felt great until I got very sick. I came down with spinal meningitis. I've been here in Chapala for 2 weeks. I went to the bathroom once, and I'm a little concerned. Can you advise simply what I can do to ameliorate the problem?
Well, come and see me.
Dr. B, I'm really surprised that you haven't spoken about probiotics, like fermented foods.
Yes.
Are you for that or not?
Well, I run out of time. But yes, probiotics are really important, especially the high doses. I buy some from a company in England where they specialize in probiotics. And it was funny that all the people that are hired there, they have to fill out application and give a poop sample because they use human strands to make the supplements. But yeah, so lactobacillus bifidus, there are a lot of strands and the numbers are important. So a good formula has to start at 5 billion and up. For leaky gut, we use about 40 billion a day.
It was my impression that mercury is no longer being used in amalgams and that has stopped. I'm not a dentist, so I was wondering if there's any dentist here or anybody might know to answer that question.
We have a dentist here, and he can answer that question. Over here, Jim. In California, amalgams are now forbidden, finally, but not in the rest of the country. I don't know what other states are. Here we have Dr. Benjamin, he's a dentist, he can answer that question.
I'm speaking in Spanish and you help me?
Yes.
Okay. Tenemos aproximadamente más de 15 años que ya no colocamos amalgamas en la boca. Está prohibido en el estado de California, en Alemania y en varios países europeos, lógicamente por el daño que ocasiona el mercurio principalmente.
He says that since 15 years ago they don't apply amalgam, especially because of the mercury toxicity. They're also forbidden in Germany and other countries. However, we can have amalgams for many years in our mouth. I still see people when they laugh, I can count them. Just open your mouth.
We have another here, please.
Yes.
Thank you very much for all your information. I certainly agree with you. I've been into alternative system most of my adult life. Also being a nurse, I've learned to check poop all the time, so it was no surprise to me. Just wanted to say, as far as colonics, we could do self-colonics. You don't have to, sorry to take business away from you, but we could do it ourselves and have your own sanitary equipment. You do it on a daily basis, and with a long enough tube, we don't have to have long necks. Anyhow, that's one thing. The other thing, I hope you don't mind me going back a few weeks, take away from this. I don't know if I should say it now or at the end of the program. I have a comment about a couple of weeks ago. Could I make it? Not today? Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, people can do their own colonics, but they're really not colonics. They're mostly enemas. There's something called a Kalima board, where you can put on a chair and then on your toilet, you lay there, put your legs up, stick that thing in there. But most people don't want to put anything in there. They don't even want to touch themselves, never mind putting anything in there. The system that I use is called a closed system, and what goes inside the rectum is only about this long. So you're not perforating anything. It's just enough to open the door, so poop can come out. So there are many systems So when you have those comments, we need to define which system we're talking about, because there are many.
Now we're going to have our last question.
Bea, I want to thank you for teaching me how to take care of myself, my immune system. Because now I know that by I take care of my own immune system, I'm responsible for my health. And I always tell people, I want you to be by my deathbed because you're such a kind and generous human being. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bea. We learned so much. Now we'll close this session. Please dispose correctly of your coffee cups and stack your chairs. And you may turn your cell phones back on. Hope to see you next week.